What if I told you that right now, even as we speak, there's an invisible wall being built around you? It's a barrier so formidable that once it's up, it will be almost impossible to climb over. It is the wall of wealth disparity. And if you're not careful, it could keep you trapped forever. Welcome back to my channel. I am your host. This is the channel where you subscribe for fresh ideas about money every week. Now today, I want to talk about the stark reality of how wealth disparity will shape our lives in 2025. It's a growing gap between the rich and the poor. It's not just some economic theory we learned in school. It's a living, breathing thing that affects all of us in profound ways. And it's about to get even more pronounced. So let's pull back the curtain and see what's really going on. Now, when we talk about wealth disparity, we're talking about the growing divide between the haves and the have-nots. It's the difference between those who have access to financial resources and those who don't. And according to recent studies, this gap is only getting wider. For instance, the World Inequality Database estimates that by 2025, the richest 1% of the population will own more than half of all the wealth in the world. That means that a tiny fraction of people will control more resources than the other 99% combined. How does this happen? Well, it's a complex interplay of factors, including globalization, technological change, and shifting power dynamics. But the bottom line is this trend is already having a profound impact on our society, and it's only going to get worse. One of the most obvious ways that wealth disparity is shaping our lives is through income inequality. The pay gap between high-income earners and low-income earners is already significant, and it's only projected to grow in the coming years. For example, Oxfam International reports that currently, the average CEO now earns 351 times the average worker's wage, up from 20 times just 3 decades ago. In the United States, the top 1% of earners take home nearly 20 times more than the median household. And this disparity isn't just about raw numbers. It also translates into real-world consequences. For instance, people in lower income brackets are more likely to struggle with basic needs like housing, food, and healthcare. And this can lead to all sorts of social problems, such as higher rates of poverty, crime, and addiction. Another way that wealth disparity is shaping our lives is through access to opportunities. When a small percentage of people control most of the wealth, they also tend to control most of the power. And this can create a vicious cycle. The wealthy have the resources to access the best education, healthcare, and networks, which gives them an unfair advantage in life. They can afford to invest in their children's futures, sending them to good schools and providing them with the tools they need to succeed. Meanwhile, those without access to quality education and healthcare are left behind. It becomes harder for them to get good jobs, which means they earn less money, which means they can't save or invest. And so the cycle continues. Furthermore, wealth disparity also shapes our political landscape. Money, after all, talks. The wealthy have the resources to influence elections, lobby politicians, and shape public policy in their favor. This can result in a government that is more responsive to the needs of the rich than the poor, leading to policies that exacerbate inequality rather than reduce it. For example, some argue that the current tax system benefits the wealthy more than the poor because it allows them to benefit from lower tax rates on investment income while shifting the tax burden onto workers. And let's not forget about the health impacts of wealth disparity. Studies have shown that living in a more unequal society can actually be detrimental to your health. People who live in areas with high levels of inequality are more likely to experience stress, anxiety, and depression. This is likely due to a number of factors, including economic insecurity, limited access to quality healthcare, and exposure to violence and crime. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are things we can do to address this issue and create a more equitable future for everyone. One of the most important things we can do is to advocate for policies that promote equality. This includes things like progressive taxation, which means that those who earn more pay a higher percentage in taxes, and stronger social safety nets, which provide a safety net for those who are struggling. We can also support policies that promote equal access to education and healthcare, which are essential for creating a level playing field. But it's not just about what we demand from our leaders. We also need to be aware of our own biases and work to create a more inclusive and equitable society. We can start by educating ourselves about wealth, disparity, and its effects. By understanding the problem, we can come up with more effective solutions. We can also support organizations that are working to address wealth disparity and create positive change. Finally, we can make an effort to be more inclusive and empathetic towards people from different socioeconomic backgrounds. By breaking down social barriers and building bridges of understanding, we can create a more compassionate and equitable society for everyone. Now look, I understand that some of you might be thinking, what can one person really do to make a dent in this massive problem? But the truth is, every little bit counts. When enough of us come together and demand change, we can really make a difference. Just think about the civil rights movement or the women's suffrage movement. These were ordinary people who came together to demand change, and they changed the world. We can do the same thing when it comes to wealth disparity. Yes, it's a big problem, but we can't afford to be overwhelmed by it. Instead, we need to come together and take action. And remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves, we're also fighting for future generations. We want to leave our children and grandchildren a better world than the one we had. And that means addressing wealth disparity head-on. Okay, here's the deal. Wealth disparity is a major issue that's only going to get worse in the next few years. But it doesn't have to be this way. We have the power to change things, but it's going to take effort and commitment. Don't wait for someone else to fix this problem. Be part of the solution. Start by educating yourself about wealth, disparity, and its effects. Support organizations that are working to create change. And most importantly, demand that our leaders create policies that promote equality. Remember, we're all in this together, and we can create a better future for everyone. So what are your thoughts? What do you think we can do as individuals and as a society to address wealth disparity and create a more equitable future? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. And hey, before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's free, and you won't miss any new videos. Thanks for joining me today. See you next time.